Good evening, everybody. This is John Marola from Keepin It Real Section 5 Football. And yes, we are at our Christmas Day Super 24, plus a couple more, all team. First of all, I got to introduce my partners. On my far right, Section 5 Hall of Fame coach from East High School, Coach Burgandy.
Merry Christmas, John, and Merry Christmas Day.
Paul.
Yes.
Merry Christmas. And the man next to me from Fairport High School, Section 5 Hall of Fame coach from baseball and football in Section 5, Coach Dave Lanning. Coach?
John, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas
Thank
to
you.
you. Paul, Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, John.
And yes, this is our Christmas edition. This is morning. I remember years ago when we had the Super 22. I believe that came out on Christmas morning. And I used to love getting up and looking at that more so than gifts.
Yeah, well, you had the All Greater Rochester and then the Times Union when
Yep.
we had that came out with the Super 22.
Yep. That was a lot of fun. So this is our edition of this year. What we've seen, and to be honest with everybody right now, the large schools, we watched a lot of them. Did not see any of the Livingston County teams play. On our episode next week, it'll be the first one. That'll be in January. January 1, 9 a.m. That'll be the small school All Greater Rochester Super 24. And I have a couple guests coming in to help us on that one because we didn't see any of those teams, really.
Didn't see them live. We saw some on tape.
Yes, we've seen the tape. But
Film,
just
whatever it's called. now.
Yep. So I have, like I said, I won't give out the names right now, but we have a couple special guests that are going to be in for that one. So stay tuned next week for that episode. But for right now, we're going to go over the large school. And like anything else, we sat down, been going over this. We were on the phone with each other going over it. It's not a perfect science. We try to make it as fair as possible. We try to reward the teams that won, but also you're going to notice there are a couple players we have. Their teams, we said, weren't even 500, I don't think. Yeah. But, we still recognize the player.
And John, you bring up a real good point because when you look at these all-star teams, they're comprised of sectional championship teams, sectional runner-ups, and so on. So it is refreshing that we did have a young man from a team that had a losing record, and I was thinking about that. In the NFL, I think you guys remember the great offensive tackle Joe Thomas for the Cleveland Browns. He was a 10-time All-Pro player, and I don't think he played a winning season with the Browns, but was recognized for his excellence.
Yes, and I think we try to bring that out this year, is try to recognize the players as well as the teams. The teams, honestly, in my looking, the teams are kind of easy because you look at all the teams that won sectionals and went on to states. They should have the majority of the players.
Represented,
but we do have some young men in here that, like I said, were not even on teams that were even 500, but they're still recognized. So I think that was very important.
Agreed. All set?
All set, ready, Coach?
Well, controversy aside, these are our selections as the outstanding players of the year in the large school classifications. That would be AA and A. And starting with the kicker from East High, Yusuf Abdi. Yusuf has been, I think, a 4-year starter for East.
Yep. Yes.
Has had an outstanding career. He's knocked in some winning field goals, been stellar on his extra points, and he is our kicker of the year.
Yeah, and I spoke to some of the East High coaches yesterday, just about him, and just what a fine young man he was, and to just have the longevity you don't see someone who has kicked for 4 years at the varsity level.
Yep, that's awesome.
Our punter of the year from Irondequoit High School is Brian Walker. Now, Brian is a position player as well, but has been, in our estimation, the outstanding punter of the year in the large school classifications.
Yeah, we saw him a couple times this year, and he was impressive and very athletic.
And Brian, I believe, he's only a 10th grader. Down the line, he could be our player of the year in the next couple years. I mean, this young man right now is punting, kicking, playing DB, and receiver. I mean, talk about he doesn't come off the field too much.
Has a bright future. For
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, here's a little side note. I had the honor of coaching his father at East High. His father was a hell of an athlete for us. So, the future is definitely bright for Brian.
And I have another side on top of that one. His father, who played for you, if people go and watch the ending with all our little clips, I believe it's the third picture. It shows East High versus Rush Henrietta at over at Falver Stadium, and his father is number 84 in the picture, he's defensive end. So we have some ties all the way around with that in their family and everything. So I thought that was great.
Moving on to quarterback. Our quarterback of the year is another veteran player. Again, an athlete, plays both sides of the ball. Will DeMarco from McQuaid. Will's done a great job directing his team to sectional championships, and again, is a factor both sides of the ball, but we like him as our quarterback of the year.
Yeah, and he had just a tremendous body of work during his time at McQuaid.
Yeah.
And well deserved.
He was a three-year starting quarterback. Was 2 of those years out of the 3 he was on the varsity, they were sectional champions.
Right.
So like we're talking about the body of work. Yes, he's well deserved. Well deserved.
At running back, we have 2 players featured. The first one, Cam Freeman from Irondequoit. Cam, again, a two-way player, but an outstanding running back. We saw him earlier in the year as one of our players of the week, and just put in yeoman's work for Irondequoit all year.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dave. I think he was a 2-time player of the week for us.
Yes, he was 2 times. Yes, and Cam's another one of those young men. He doesn't really come off the field too much. He's offense, defense, and I think he's punt return, kickoff return guy too. So I believe, and I know he visited UB. I don't know if he came down to his decision, but I know UB's on one of his higher list of colleges to go to. So we'll be looking forward. And also, just to chime in real quick, we are going to have an episode during the off season about where these young men end up, what colleges they end up at. They're all not going to be Division I, but hey, if they go someplace, they're going to get recognized, and I think that's important too.
And our second running back is the record-holding yards gained rusher from Brighton, Gavin Parks. Gavin, sort of the engine that made Brighton go offensively this year. Just an outstanding year. Can't say enough about this guy and the work he's put in for Brighton.
You're exactly right, Dave. We were so impressed when we watched him. Just he ran. He ran hard and he ran angry.
Yes.
Yeah, as we say, he ran like every down was his last down.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So
That's how I'm definitely going to remember. Like I said, the first live look I got at Gavin was his junior year. They played East in the finals over at, I think it was at Fairport. And I was so impressed with him back then. I was just like, wow, this. And he was getting stronger as the game was going on.
Right.
If you have a running back, anything like that, he brings everything to the plate. He brings his whole, 170 pounds? I mean, he brings it every down. So he was just really, really fun young man to watch run and represent his school and Section 5. So
Outstanding. You're also a fine lacrosse player.
Yep.
And I believe is going to an Ivy League school to
Dartmouth.
play lacrosse Dartmouth.
Yep.
Next season. Let's move on to wide receivers. We've got 2. One is a guy that made noise, it seemed like every week, got in the end zone. And was a featured player in Monroe's success. That's Messiah Hampton.
Mm-hmm.
Messiah's only a junior.
Yep.
And certainly a marked man each week, but produced each week as well.
Definitely a big-time player. In fact, I believe he's against Eastside in their game, too.
Yep.
Very talented, and, he's going to be getting a lot of looks, I know, from the colleges in the upcoming season.
I was looking up some stuff on Max Prep, and he's the #1 recruit in New York State right now for the 2026 class.
Okay.
He's only a junior, and he's got some teams looking at him, and so we're just going to follow his journey
Right.
here in Section 5 a little bit, and because honestly, we don't have kids like that, and
He has a knack for finding the end zone.
yes, he
for sure.
does. He definitely knows where the end zone is.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun watching him go through his last year of high school football here in Section 5.
Our second wide receiver is out of Athena, and that's Zaire Good.
Mm-hmm.
Zaire, an outstanding athlete, can catch the ball, can run, and it was a featured player in Athena's attack.
Yep. Now, he's the player that I was talking about in the beginning of the show. I'm not positive, but I know Athena didn't even go 500 this year. And, again, we're recognizing, all these kids, and, he's on our first team, and he's well-deserved to be on our first team. He played, he had a hell of a year for himself.
He stood out.
Yes, he definitely stood out. And just because, Athena had a down year this year, he came and played his football week after
Yeah, and I
week.
think we just want to recognize there's a lot of very, very good football players that played for sub-500 teams
Yep.
that are out there. And, the colleges, they know who they are. They find them.
Mhm.
So, they watch on film what they're doing every play, and that's when they put in their evaluation. So, for those kids, every down is important. Keep playing hard, and you may not be recognized on these type teams, but there are, the colleges do recognize you.
Yes, they do.
Our tight end is one of the core players for Aquinas this year, Quante Gillians.
Mm-hmm.
Again, a guy who rarely comes off the field and is a factor on either side of the ball, but we have him as our tight end, Quante Gillians from Aquinas.
Yeah, they moved him around a lot on the offense, some H-back, sometimes
Mhm.
back in the backfield, and did a lot of things with
And I thought as the year went on for Aquinas, he became better and better. Honestly, I thought personally he had a slow start of this year, but I guess it's not how you start, but the way you finished. And he finished pretty strong. He finished like he well deserved. He's going to go to Syracuse on a football scholarship. So, later in the year when the brighter lights were on, he definitely came forward and gave all he had. So, congratulations to him, and also good luck to him next year.
Well, let's move on to the big boys now up front,
Yes,
the
sir.
offensive line. We'll start out with a guy who really made the Rush Henrietta run game go, and that's Caleb Condello, outstanding young man from Rush.
Yeah, and had an opportunity a couple weeks ago. Caleb was a awards winner at the National Football Foundation, and as well as he is a football player, he's a fine young man. A lot of community service he does. He's involved with a lot of activities, and a very good scholar athlete.
Yep. I caught them live, their sectional championship game against Aquinas, and he stood out to me as a player and as a person. I mean, we talk about kids that play football and then football players. I'm going to tell you right now, he's a football player. That kid played the game like it was 0-0 the whole game, and he was trying to motivate his other players around him as the game was going on, and it got a little out of hand a little bit with the score with that, but it didn't matter to him. As I seen him play in the first quarter was the same player I seen in the fourth quarter, and that stands out a lot to me. Seeing kids, young men play like that.
Oh, just guys that will compete. I mean,
Yep.
that's every coach's dream.
Yep.
Our next offensive lineman is a 3-year starter from Fairport, Blaze Waters. Blaze played both sides of the ball for Fairport, was one of their stout defenders as well. Wrestles in the winter and is a fine wrestler, but again, a 3-year starter on the offensive line for Fairport and was one of the keys to their success this year, Blaze Waters.
Yes, 3-year starter, as you said. And
I like the multi-sport athlete.
what did he do in the winter? Wrestle?
He's a wrestler, outstanding wrestler.
Those wrestler football players, I mean,
Always looked for
And
him.
especially in the line play.
yes, you can never not have enough of those.
Next on the offensive line, out of Spencerport, Myron, I hope I pronounced it properly, the last name, German. Myron is being heavily recruited, and Spencerport always a strong run game, and he was featured up front for them.
I think he's been offered by Rutgers University.
Yes. We knew about that. Well, we interviewed him up at
Westside Camp.
Westside Camp up at Greece Olympia back on August, the beginning of August, and we got a good, we got a chance to meet him before the season started and everything. And I'll tell you, he's got the size, and he's a player. We watched him those nights over at Olympia, and he's definitely a football player. So good luck to him, and over at Rutgers, and represent. I know he will.
And our last two offensive linemen are part of that Brighton juggernaut. Tandem up front, A.J. Rosignol and Sean Blake.
Yep, and watching Brighton, I watched those two during the year, and they again, football players. I mean, you can't have enough of kids like this. They weren't tall size, but they had some good. They had great strength. They got off the ball, and they were just kids you have to have on your team.
We were very impressed with Brighton's offensive line.
Yes.
Coach Weimer, who works with the line, did a tremendous job. And, like you said, John, we noticed times where we're seeing the center pulling, kicking out, and they did some nice things in communication, just the way they worked together. They were probably as impressive offensive line as we saw all year.
Mm-hmm. The thing I noticed about Brighton, it reminded me of, we've all coached on some really successful teams. I was on the sideline of their game against Sweet Home and up at Brockport State, and there wasn't a lot of talking going on. There wasn't a lot of, Coach, what about this? I noticed coaching through my years, I noticed a couple things. When you had good football teams, you would tell the kids something once or twice maybe, and that was it. They got it. The teams that weren't that successful, I remember saying the same things to them the first day of practice and the same thing to them the last day of practice.
Part of that's preparation, obviously, game planning, and part of it is guys who just know how to play football can figure things out on the run.
Yeah.
Blocking assignments and changes that may have to be made on the line.
Yeah.
So, always looking for guys who could had a good head for the game as well as just a physical ability. Well, that's our offensive lineup, and I'll mention this: that 10 teams were represented on the offensive side of the ball. Ready to move to defense?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's start with the defensive line. First from Fairport, Marcus Garrett, defensive end. He also played tight end. Did some punting for Fairport off and on. He's going to go to UAlbany next year and has been a 3-year starter for Fairport.
Yeah, he was a dominant player, especially on that defensive front. Caused a lot of havoc, and future looks real bright for him.
Oh, he's got great size.
And a tough guy coming off the edge, hard to block. Faster than tackles who would try to block him.
Yep.
Stronger than a lot of the running backs who would try to pick him up. So a tough matchup. Let's move ahead. Out of Canandaigua, Jorge Torres Steele on the defensive line for Canandaigua.
Watched them actually against Brighton up at and he again, all these young men we're talking about, and he's definitely up on. He's a football player. Just plays every down so hard, like it's his last down, and just one hell of a football player.
Next, out of Irondequoit, a guy we saw earlier in the year, Andrew Long.
Yes, he's going to be. He's a good one. He's got real nice feet, hips. Gets off the ball, and just he loves the game of football, and he is definitely a football player too.
Our fourth defensive lineman out of Hilton, always a rugged group at Hilton, both sides of the ball, but defensively, Brandon Pike stood out for them on the defensive line.
Brandon's another one we watched Hilton play a couple times. He another one. You know, I go to games and you start looking for linemen, and he definitely shows himself. You know, during the game, another kid, he gets off the ball, plays very very hard, and just a, you know, it's cliche, but he's a typical Hilton lineman.
And he's in the opposing team's backfield.
Yes.
You know, and that's when you notice him right away.
Yep.
Our linebacking core was tough to pick. A lot of good linebackers out there this year in the large school divisions. But we've gone with three. And let's start with Jeremiah Tucker from East High.
Yeah, Jeremiah Tucker was the Defensive Player of the Year in Class A. He is signed to go to Central Connecticut State in Division I program. So again, it's another one that the future is really bright, and he was the anchor of the East High defense.
Definitely was. He was when they were playing at Monroe. I was at that one, and another a young man. You be there just the first quarter, and
you know who
he is exactly, and he's a heck of a player.
Yeah. Our next linebacker's from Fairport. He's a 3-year starter. He'll be going to St. John Fisher. Hopefully he'll play football next year, and that's Joe Roselli.
Yep.
Joe doubled as an H-back in the offense, but made his name on the defensive side of the ball.
Yep. Joe was one of the main players of this year's success to Fairport.
They were the number one seeded team going into this.
Yeah, only giving up about 8 points a game going into the sectionals. Joe's a downhill player, nose for the ball.
Yep.
Our third linebacker from Aquinas should not be a surprise. He's had an outstanding year and an outstanding career. The all-time leader in tackles, I think, in the section. That's Lucas Leone.
Yeah, and he was definitely one that you knew right away where he was, because if there was a pile-up, he was involved with it.
Yep. He is as old school player as you want to watch play. He comes out. I don't think he wears socks, or he's got the low cut socks on, and he just by the end of the game you could tell at the end of every game that he played 100%.
Yeah, and he's a two-way player. He played offensive tackle for
yes, he did.
Too.
Always around the ball. Not unusual to be in double digits tackles every game.
And I think it was a 4-year starter. 4-year starter at the varsity. So he was definitely. I don't know if he was the main person, but if he wasn't, he was a 1A as far as Aquinas' success this year.
And again, he's another one, that fine young man. He's got great grades, citizenship, a lot of community service. He was also a big awards winner at the National Football Foundation.
Great. Our defensive backs, again, tough selections here. A lot of fine athletes playing in those spots this year. A lot of them two-way players, receivers, running backs as well. But this is the group we went with. First from McQuaid, Alan Nesmith. Alan's a previous Player of the Week for us here on Keeping It Real. Doubles as running back, but an outstanding defensive player.
And Alan Nesmith was the Class AA Offensive Player of the Year. On our selection, we liked him on the defensive side.
Yeah. I just thought offensively, yes. I mean, he checks the box. Defensively, though, you could tell when he is the leader on the defense. When the players were looking for, a guide, he's the person. And 3-year starter, both sides of the ball, and when 2 sectional championships out of those 3 years. Just, another one. Just a great young man.
Yeah, and he's also, he was great in track, and where they won sectional. So, he'll have some decisions to make whether he'll continue with football or go in the direction of track and field.
I think. Well, he was on our show, Player of the Week,
Yep.
and he was talking about. I don't know that this was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, first, second.
He was talking about going to the University of Miami for biology.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I can't remember now,
He's-
but I
he
know it was.
hoping to run track.
Oh,
Yeah. So, but maybe we'll give Coach Bates a call, or I actually.
we'll get updated on what his
Yep.
future is.
Next, out of UPrep, we have C.J. Robinson. Great cover guy. Again, a skilled player on both sides of the ball, but we like him as a DB, C.J. Robinson.
CJ's as a running back. I mean, you can't ask for anything more out of a young man as far as the way he played. He really turned it on towards the end of the year, and but like I said, we only have so many positions.
Yeah, when you look at the best football players on the field, he's on the field.
Yes,
You
yes.
find him.
Great
really
ball
quick.
skills. Good tackler. Next, out of Monroe, Mackenzie Styles Baker, who's been a veteran player for them, played for a few years now. And again, could hurt you both sides. We like him as a DB. And our last selection is a defensive back out of Aquinas, Darian Battles.
Yep.
You know Darian a little bit.
Darian was mostly, offense, and as you can see, the 2 offensive running backs we had are just, they're phenomenal as far as numbers and everything. But we went with the athlete and the player. He played defense. He did a really, really nice job on defense. Again, one of the top players at Aquinas this year for their success, and just congratulations to him and everything.
What's interesting about these 2 lineups is you could probably take the offensive group and play them on defense.
Oh yeah,
Take the
Oh, yeah,
defensive
right.
group, play them on
Yeah,
offense,
absolutely.
and not lose much either side of the ball.
No,
absolutely
These
right.
are just fine young men, fine athletes. Now we've got 2 other selections here to make before we move on, and one is our Player of the Year. Our Player of the Year, based on his total body of work and success of the team, and that is Trent Buttles from Aquinas.
Well, just a tremendous season, both sides of the ball, and he really stood out in some of those sectional and regional play with some very key interceptions. I know he had one against McQuaid in that big game. So it seemed like when the brightest spot, the biggest part of the game, he was the one that was making the plays on either the offensive side or the defensive
Yep,
side.
and against, I believe it was Lancaster, he had the one at the end of the game, was like a 100-yard pick six.
6'6".
And that wasn't like a straight run either. He was jogging in and out, and just like we said, I think on both sides of the ball, if I'm going to start a football team, now, again, I'm a little biased. I coached at Aquinas and all that. I'm going to start it with him. Again, both sides of the ball. He just
Difference makers. You're looking for guys that can
Change a
turn a
game.
game around.
Yep.
He can do it on either side of the ball.
They say big-time players step up in big games, and he stepped up, when, especially in the most key situations.
Yep.
Well, our final selection here is not a player, but the Coach of the Year. Tough selection. We had some great jobs put in by coaches throughout in terms of individuals and staffs. But our Coach of the Year is Steve Liam from Brighton.
Yep.
Brighton with their first sectional championship in school history, and then undefeated through the year, moving on deep into postseason play.
Yeah, and you hit it, Dave. Where they were sectional runner-ups the year before, and just the hard work of that whole coaching staff. And they were the only team in Section 5 that had finished the regular season and sectionals undefeated going into to regional play.
Yes. They did. They bought in, and they. I'm not going to put them on this pedestal yet, but they kind of reminded me a little bit. Now, this is back in the day type of stuff. Fairport Webster.
Mm-hmm.
Fairport was the king, and all of a sudden this little other team from Webster started, getting a little confidence and playing a little harder. I'm kind of noticing that with Brighton a little bit.
Well, things are always cyclical, and it could very well be Brighton's time now and have a nice run for a few years.
They definitely put the work in over there, and I think all the kids are buying into the coaches.
Well, one of the things to Coach Liam's credit, I think, is just that the players are bought in, but so is the coaching staff. They all seem to be on the same page. Egos aside, everybody wants to coach, and he lets them, but he's the guy in charge.
Again, we've said this: well-coached team, they don't make mistakes. And they're strong in all three phases.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, anyways.
Well, there you have it. Those are our large school players of the year on both sides of the football. Again, we're not looking for controversy. It's a tough decision, and we hope we've served you well.
And congratulations to the young men that were selected and coached.
Yes, and like coaches, just said, we're just trying to recognize our top players of Section 5. And, I mean, we could make a list of 100 names, and the kid that's 101, 102, 105 is going to be,
gonna be the case.
There's always going to be the case. So, again, congratulations to all the players, to the coaches, to the teams. I thought Section 5 was well represented in states this year. We had 3 teams that moved on out of the first round, and we haven't had that in a couple years. So we're just looking to get a little more stronger and get a little more better and better every year. So
that was a fun year. We enjoyed going to the games, watching some of these top players play week in and week out, and we look forward to the next season and the next group of young men to get that opportunity.
A lot of balance in A and AA this year.
Absolutely.
And that certainly made it fun for us.
Yeah, we said it in the beginning of the season. We said that came true at the end too. Is in AA we found 5 teams that were any of those 5 teams could have won, and
A also.
Same thing with A. There's another 5 teams in A that we thought that had a shot to do this.
Yeah, and we saw right away in that week 1 when Rush Henrietta, who was an 8 seed, they knocked off the 1.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very, very competitive in both classifications.
Yes, and watching who we'll have on probably on the next show is for me watching Eastridge from last year to this year. The job that those guys
we had saw that first game of the year versus Arundequoit,
right.
and they sure came a long way in that game.
Yes, they have, and just congratulations to everybody. Just keep on watching, and we're just gonna hopefully get a little bigger and better as we go along. And next week, January 1st, 2025. You guys going out for New Year's that night or anything? What do you got?
New
going
Year's
on?
for me ends about 8:00, John.
8 a.m. or 8
You
No,
don't
PM. I'm done.
You don't stay up for the ball drop.
I will not make the ball drop.
You don't make the ball drop?
No.
No?
I've seen enough balls drop through the years
As a coach.
as a coach.
You've seen enough.
So wish everyone well and a Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yep. Enjoy your day today. Christmas, and then hopefully everybody's having a good Christmas with your family, your close friends, or whoever it may be.
And I think when we have our salute, not only the Keeping It Real, we will wish everyone a Merry Christmas.
Again.
Sure. After we say, we'll end it with Merry Christmas. So, again, as far as when we'll start, next week we're going to have our small team, come out next week, and then after that, I will get on and I will let people know what our plans are as far as January, or what's going on in January, February.
Yeah, we'll
and
be
that.
lining up, some interviews that we'll do, and we will update you on the progress with some of these young men that were selected.
Yes.
Where they plan.
That's
on
gonna be
attending
fun.
and
I
that
think-
will. And as we hear it too, we will pass that
Yes,
information
I think
on.
that'll be a lot of fun for us.
It should be.
And
keep
there,
tabs.
I know, is the New York State High School Football Coaching Clinic at Turning Stone. We'll pass out information as we know of combines, coaching clinics that are going to be going on in the off season.
One thing that I'll be trying to do, not trying, I will do, is in our off season, my plan is on our episodes to have in, say, Coach Jackson over at the sectional winner coaches. Have them in, break it up, week after week. Coach Liam from Brighton. I can't even think of all the coaches now.
Oh, there's plenty. Coach Wayne from Fairport and Coach Council from Fairport, outstanding year, #1 seed. So, yeah, a lot of coaches that we can have in. And
Yeah.
listen, we welcome your feedback, too. Any calls, please direct them to John Marola, and he'll get to us.
What about you?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody
Ready.
good?
We're good.
All right. We remember now. We got two parts to this.
we do.
all
Parts, right.
Coach,
This
you
is
ready?
Get it right.
Multicast.
Let's get it right.
All right. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Keep it
it
real.
real,
Section
Section
5
5
football.
football.
Merry
Merry
Christmas,
Christmas.
everybody.
Good.
Oh, by the way, I got to do this too. Tape. What are we in?
39,
Tape 42.
42.
42 of them.
Paul Warfield.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
That's a wrap.
Waiting in a car, waiting for a ride at the door. Like the city grows, look at the